Hello, this is Ebonygeek. You're always welcome to join me in expanding your knowledge base. Comments are always welcome, and please subscribe. Hello, this is Ebonygeek45. Today is a great day to learn something. We're just continuing on with these tutorials. As you can see, this Arduino Uno is different than the one below it that we've been talking about for the last one. I just wanted to point out the reason that I'm not going over all of the other components is that for the very basics that we're going to be doing, all you need to be concerned with is these pins on this rail, these pins on this rail, this silver USB port, and this black barrel. As you can see, it's the exact same here. We're going to be concerned with the pin here and the pin here. This little black barrel, the silver barrel, and the reset button. As you can see, they're two very different boards. They're from two different companies, but they do have the same makeup, really. This one has surface mount rather than this actual chip. With this, again, these first two we're not going to be using. Those first two pins, the first one is a RX0 and the second one is a TX1. For the 0 pin and the 1 pin, we will not be using that. That's for your more advanced programmer tinkerer. We will be starting with pin 2 over to pin 13. Okay, so that's pin 2 right here, over to pin 13 and ground. Okay, that's what we're going to be using. 13 is a digital pin, down to 2, which is a digital pin. You're going to see that some of these pins have tildes on them. That's for a specific reason. Just keep that in mind. But we do not need to know that right now for the basics, okay? So you have your digitals, which is 2 through 13. The digitals, okay, to explain the difference between your digitals, which is 2 through 13, and your analogs, which is right here on this little rail, A0 through A5, for your analogs. And that's simple to remember. They start with an A for analog, so they A through 0 through A5. And then you have your digitals, which is 13 through 2. Now, the difference between analog and digital is you're going to find that all your components is going to have signal. And this is the big secret. These are electric coming through to this microprocessor. So these components are going to be sending electric to your microprocessor, and that's how it's speaking to this microprocessor, and that's how you're going to be programming with your laptop, desktop, whatever have you, to this microprocessor to make some pretty good things. Now, with that electric for analog, which is really the older way of doing things, as you, for example, you may have a cable box. Well, most cable boxes now is digital. They started out as analog, but they phased those out. That's old technology, and now they're digital. So with this microprocessor, your analog pin is something that's going to range for your electrical pulse from 0 to, I believe it's something like, I forgot. But it's gonna, like, say, if you have a preset of 0 to 255, it's gonna range from 0 on through to 255, such as volume. You might start at 0, and then you might increase it on up to whatever power level you want. That's something like how you would do for analog. It's going to be a ranging electrical signal from 0 through to, I think it's 1,000 something. So it's ranging. Your digital, which is 13 through 2. Your digital is going to be either 0, which can translate to no, which can translate to false, or it's going to be 5 or 3.3, whichever is your whichever voltage you're using for the Arduino. And I'm going to say 5 because I always use 5 volts. So it's going to be either 0, false, no, or 5, yes, true. So that's how it's going to be. It's either going to be one or the other. There's no range to it. There's no middle ground. It's just 0, ground, false, or 1, true, yes. So, and that's how it would go. So that's the difference between digital. It's either one or the other. So it's either true or false. It's either 0 or 1. It's either yes or no. Opposed to your analog, which is going to be 0. Wherever you want to range it in between 0 and whatever the end point is, which could be 1,000 or whatever, is gonna be that. Like, for example, you're gonna use on the digital side a component that's either gonna take one or the other, one signal or the other, true, false, yes, no. For this analog, which another thing is, you can turn these analogs to digitals if you should need more. But for our examples, we're going to be using analog for analog. So for these analog pins, you're going to be using that for something that's going to range, that's going to be adjustable in between 0 and 1,000, what have you. A good example of that is a potentiometer. You range it is something that you adjust up and down, like that volume button that I told you about. So that's the difference between digital and analog. And as we continue working with the microprocessor, and we are about to start experimenting with, actually my next tutorial is going to be us experimenting with our first program, which is going to be the Arduino Hello World program. So stay tuned for that next tutorial, and we'll be starting out with our first example. And in that first example, we're actually going to be using the digital pen. And in that digital pen, we're going to be using LEDs, which is a component that you can use with the digital side, meaning yes, no, 1, 2. And so that's a good example of what you would use for digital electrical components. So if you want to go ahead and jump into your first program and see the nuts and bolts of it, stay tuned for our next tutorial. Today was a great day to learn something. Happy coding, happy tinkering. See you in the next tutorial. Thank you, and bye-bye. I'm Ebonygeek, and I hope that the information provided has been helpful to you. Please remember to subscribe. Happy building and happy coding.